Hello and welcome to Two Across, the podcast where two friends sitting on opposite sides of the Atlantic sit down and catch up over a crossword. I'm Rob in Montreal, Canada.
And I'm Theo in London, England. Hello.
Hello, Theo. So I heard in the green room before we got here that Zeus is not going to be guest starring in today's podcast with his occasional snorts of derision.
Yeah, sadly, there will be no snorting because he's currently in the groomer, getting his fur neatly clipped and his nails filed and cucumbers placed over his eyes and whatever else they do in those establishments. But yes, being a shih-tzu, he tends to get very hairy very quickly, so we have to get him trimmed about every 6 weeks, especially in the warmer months.
Yes. So I imagine him in one of those harnesses that you sometimes see, like, I don't have a dog, but you pass by the windows of a modern grooming parlor, and it sort of looks vaguely like a torture chamber, because they just, especially if the dogs aren't in them, and you just sort of see these harnesses lined up on top of a sort of metal countertop, and you think, what happens in there?
That's exactly what it is. I mean, it essentially is a canine torture chamber as they're sort of hoisted into position on the aforementioned table whilst the groomer takes a fairly aggressive pair of clippers to them. And the noises that come out of those places, I mean, when I go to pick him up, I always have my earphones in because I just can't stand the wailing and howling and barking that's coming from the cages behind the table. I mean, it's a job I could ever do in a million years, I have to say. And I have tried grooming Zeus myself previously, and it's an absolute non-starter. I mean, for a start, you need proper clippers. You need a certain, I guess, ruthlessness to just power through their protestations to, end up with this very nicely coiffured dog. So I prefer just shoving him in there, walking away for a couple of hours, not thinking about it, and going back, and he's all nice and clipped and perfumed.
It sounds a lot like dropping your kids off at nursery or daycare, as we call it here.
Yes, very similar actually. Yeah. Best not to think about how the sausage gets made, as it were.
Exactly. Have you ever sheared a sheep, Theo, being a lad from the north?
Good question. I have not, despite my rural roots, but I have witnessed much sheep shearing, including a sheep shearing contest when I lived in New Zealand for a year, where obviously sheep and sheep shearing is big business in New Zealand. And in fact, most of the shearers that used to come and do it for us on the farm in Northumberland were from New Zealand, because they'd come over here, work 6 months over the summer, and then go back there and do the 6 months in the summer. So it's quite, it's a profession that encourages international travel, I suppose. But anyway, this sheep shearing contest in New Zealand, it was so impressive. I mean, they can shear an entire sheep in, I think the record was something like 56 seconds or something unbelievable. Jeez. And they sort of maneuver this thing, this poor sheep looking completely sort of bedazzled by what's going on, and they shove it around the stage and get the clippers in there and take off this perfect fleece, a bit like taking the peel off an orange without breaking any of it. It just sort of comes off in one tidy piece. And I have much admiration for those guys. It's not easy work, especially when the weather's hot and your arms are getting covered in all that oily lanolin. It's man's work.
We had that in a crossword a couple of maybe last year. Lanolin, I remember that coming up.
We did have lanolin in the crossword. It's a wonderful word, quite a difficult word to say quickly. Bit of a tongue twister.
True.
So how's life, Rob? What's going on your side of the pond?
Well, I know we like to start Two Across with a review of the weather. I think we're at a point, Theo, where we need some kind of special weather jingle on this podcast, because it's quite stunning, actually, because I think I mentioned last week it was going to get warm. We had sort of, as they say in French, température ressentie, which was like the felt temperature of 30 degrees much of the end of last week. It was tropical, like doors thrown open, just wearing shorts and t-shirt or just shorts and loving it. And then it poured, the biblical flood over the weekend, as happens when the temperature is about to plummet. And this morning it's 9.
Wow.
Yeah, so Isabel likens it to, it's sort of the revenge of November. It's been hiding there, waiting for us, and now it's just come back and it's like, ha ha ha, you thought summer was coming.
The last lash of winter's tale.
Yeah, it's like that Spanish Inquisition skit in the Monty Python.
Yeah.
You know, if you're like, I wasn't expecting the Spanish Inquisition, it's like, haha, no one expects the Spanish Inquisition.
No one expects 9 degrees in mid-May.
This is November. Yeah. It is the Spanish Inquisition just waiting to jump on you.
I think we're about to get our Spanish Inquisition next week because it's currently pretty balmy, but the temperature is gradually dropping, and the forecast next week is pretty wet, which is bad news for the organisers of the Brockwell Park festivals, the headline-making Brockwell Park festivals. Yes. Which have been in the news this week because some local residents took the council to court over their failure to get planning permission for these festivals, which were particularly controversial last year because it was very rainy, and so all of the 20,000, however many it is, people pile into the park and then leave a mud bath in their wake, and the grass takes months and months and months to recover. And living as I do right next to Brockwell Park, I do feel that very keenly. I think it's a pretty pretty sad thing, really.
You've just tipped off the paparazzi to your location, Theo.
It's a good point. When I say I live close to it, it is a big park. I'm saying no more than that, Rob. I don't want to get doorstepped for my views on the Brockwell Park festivals. But anyway, yes, that's a bit of local news for you, Rob, from this side.
Ah, interesting.
Brockwell Park, very close to our hearts, of course, because it was where our friendship was forged in those dim and distant COVID months when we would traipse around it with some frisbees in hand and put the world to rights as we aimed said frisbees at various trees.
And the park, I mean, Brockwell Park, having also lived close to it when I was there, is a resource for tens of thousands of people almost every day that run through
Indeed,
it,
it is.
Picnic in it, that run their dogs or children in it. It is a real shame when they do put up those awful green barriers and all of a sudden much of the park becomes inaccessible to the public. It's
the green barriers have been very heavily graffitied this year, which is quite interesting, and that's the first time that's really happened. And they say things like, whose park? Our park. And
I love it.
People over profit and all that stuff. So yeah, I feel very much at the centre of political intrigue, and the Battle of Brockwell, as it's been labelled, continues to rumble on. So I'll keep you posted on it. And we'll see how that unfolds. In other news, I'm trying to think what else has been going on. I feel like I had a pin from last episode, by the way.
Did you?
That I just wanted to mention. Oh, it was on the question over the medieval period definition.
Oh, yes.
I implied that Peter the Great, who was an 18th century Russian Tsar, was a medieval monarch. And I think that was inaccurate, despite Russia's quasi-medieval status, as you rightly highlighted. So according to Google/AI, as it seems to increasingly be now, the medieval period, also known as the Middle Ages, is a historical period in Europe that generally spans from the fall of the Western Roman Empire in the 5th century to the beginning of the Renaissance in the 15th century. So by that measure, even Henry VIII doesn't count as medieval. He would be post-medieval. Because to me, he's the very representation of medievalism when I think of the Middle Ages. But no, much earlier than that. So by that definition, Peter the Great definitely doesn't fit. So So yeah, apologies, listeners, for misleading you on that one.
No, medieval would have been more Henry II walking through the streets of Canterbury being flagellated for an outburst leading to the death of St. Thomas Becket. That would be sort of the height of medievalism, where people would roam the lands on pilgrimages to look for bones and stuff that were stocked up in some cathedral relating to some saint or other. That sort of mystical, church-bound. Yeah, because the Renaissance was the beginning of the return of classical thinking to Europe that had been sort of maintained in the Arab countries. And then it came back into Europe by the back door, and all of a sudden a lot of things started to turn on their head. And that was sort of pre-Reformation and all that stuff. And Henry was a big part of that, Henry VIII, in all the things he did with the birth of the Anglican faith and all that. So,
now, talking of wandering barren landscapes looking for bones, we we have a crossword to do, which we have not been very successful in our crossword scavenging in the last few episodes.
Eek.
So we are going to need to pick it up today if we're going to have any chance of leveling or even, dare I suggest, beating the scores for this series, because we're currently 16-13 down.
Oh, it hurts.
Which is a terrible state of affairs.
We're kind of at the point that if we don't start figuring this out, we're going to run out of road, I think, as we said, in terms of this season ending. So we really do have to pick up our socks.
We do, no pressure.
So let's head to the crossword and see if we can do that.
Let's go to the crossword, because crossing words is fun.
Okay, so peek behind the curtain. I have just taken about a 20-minute interval to go and collect Zeus from the groomer, because the groomer, it turns out, bless her, was not having a great day. I was hoping that he could stay there in one of the cages I mentioned earlier and wait patiently for me to finish my podcast recording, but the groomer was feeling unwell. She'd had a cancellation and understandably wanted to go home. So I hot-footed it down there. I've collected my very nicely primped and preened four-legged friend, who is once more restored to his rightful place by my feet. So, yes, there we go.
Welcome back to the show, Zeus, because as people who listen would know that really we are three across, because Zeus has been a faithful member of the show, certainly since the beginning of this season and halfway through the last, wasn't it?
It was. He's kind of the show mascot, really. And for the completely new listener, you should probably know that he is something of a celebrity dog, because I met him on a television show called The Doghouse on Channel 4, which you can rewatch at your leisure. Series 6, Episode 1, if you would like to have that experience and see how I met him.
It's really heartwarming.
Oh, Rob, I know that. I know you've had to park quite a lot of cynicism in order to tell me that, so I do. I appreciate
it's waiting
that.
for me. It's all waiting for me outside. The cynicism is going to descend on me, and I'm going to have to kick a cat or something to get it out.
Yeah. He actually had a friend this weekend, because we had Martin to stay, who regular listeners will know very well, because he was a guest on the pod a few episodes ago, and he brought his lovely family plus dog Jack, who, as the name implies, is a little Jack Russell. So Zeus was hanging out with Jack all weekend, which was quite nice. It was kind of like a canine sleepover, you know. So yeah, that was jolly. Shout out to Martin and to Jack, of course. They also took some of our tadpoles away with them, who I've been failing to report on, but are going to reach the end of their journey with us this week, because I'm going to take them to the school, to my kids' school, and they're going to introduce them into the pond in their garden there. So I think that's quite a nice way to pass them on, don't you?
Yeah. Any limbs, any detachment of tails or flagella?
So definite signs of limbs, and I've been duly feeding them bits of fish food to try and sate their carnivorous ways, and kind of hoping they don't all just suddenly turn into frogs and disappear on me just before I'm due to gift them to the school children.
Yes.
Because that could be a rather anticlimactic moment if they do. But no, hopefully they'll cling on a few days more and then go and find their new life in the school garden. Okay, let's crack it. Let's crack on. Crack at it.
Of that. Have a crack at it.
Crack away, I don't know. Whatever.
Make some omelet by cracking some eggs.
Do you want to do the rules?
Yeah, really quickly for people. So first of all, we're doing Guardian Quick Crossword 17,171. So we play this sight unseen. We have half an hour to do it. Theo sets a timer and we stick to it. We try to focus on the crossword and generally don't. And you can follow us on that journey by clicking on the Guardian Quick Crossword 1717.1 in our podcast notes, or go look for that on your favorite web browser of choice. I think that's about it. Shall we launch into one across just for fun, because it spans the entire length of the crossword at the top?
Let's do it, and I'm just going to set the timer off. 30 minutes. Let's go. Right.
All right.
Now, the first... I'm laughing because it's one of these. It's one of these that tests a very, very specific piece of knowledge. Mm-hmm. And it's a piece of knowledge that is frustratingly just out of my reach right now.
Right.
But I feel like it's going to come back to me.
Should we give it to people?
Yeah, let's give it to people. It's Ethiopian Emperor exiled to England, 5'8".
Also known as the Lion King, or in, I suppose, the local language, Rastafari.
Yeah.
Which, I'm probably brutalizing that, but it was the Emperor Haile Selassie.
Oh, of course. Yes.
Who it was believed by some was the second coming of maybe Jesus or someone biblical, and became the basis of a religion that is practiced to this day in Jamaica.
And how are we spelling?
Okay, so I believe Haile is like hail with an E, so it's 5'8".
Okay.
So I believe it's hail with an E. And then I think Selassie, if I'm not mistaken, is Selassie. And that's a guess, but we'll check with letters as they go down.
I mean, it's a fine guess. It certainly, phonetically, that sounds correct. Haile Selassie. But we'll get some downs just to sort of check things out. But well done for getting that, because I was feeling momentarily rather panicked. I don't remember his name.
No, that one was luckily somewhere in my historical records. And I should just fact check my Haile Selassie claims as well.
Yes, that does sound like one that's probably worth fact checking.
Yeah, I may have many.
Here's a nice one.
Who are very
2 down.
Angry at me.
Like a couple on a moonlit stroll? ?
Yeah.
323.
Well, you're a multiple worder.
I love a multiple worder, and I believe this one is arm in arm.
Oh, nice. That's funny. I was thinking hand in hand, but I was like, well, hand won't fit, so what is it? I was sort of disconsolate. I refused to move off that. Thank you, Theo.
No, 'tis the limb to which the hand is attached.
Ah, yes.
Oh, here we go. Very South London type clue, this one.
I think I know.
Skinny or chai, or both.
Yeah.
5 letters. Which begins with L from Haile, so would be a latte.
A latte. And it gives us an M. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say I love a chai latte.
I do too, if the time is right. Well, I've just been drinking a latte, Theo, from a very special cup that someone gave me for my birthday.
Oh, Rob, you
Yes.
shouldn't have. And you were giving me some visual clues before, weren't you? And I was completely missing them because I was too busy ranting on about parks.
Theo was talking about something, and I was sort of holding it up, pointing at the mug on the screen, like, interesting. What's
I'm very
this?
touched that you're using it, the Two Across branded mug. I think we should make this available to listeners, maybe our first piece of merch.
Wow.
What do you think?
That would be something. And it has, for listeners, just to hold it up to the screen, which you can't see, it has a clue on the back, which is gum, a 3-letter anagram for receptacle for holding hot drinks. So I'm going to leave that to listeners to figure that out. And if
I was quite proud of that one. First,
anyone guesses what the anagram gum
myself.
Yeah.
Let
So
us know via twoacrosspod
at
gmail.com. And talking of that email address, we've had some fantastic mailbag entries this week, which we will get into at the end. So another little pin there, along with the Selassies.
Yes, and we've received emails and a little bit of sleaze in our inbox, which is not actually true, but that leads us into the clue for 8 across, which is a 4-letter word, soot, fungus, or sleaze. I've never heard this as fungus. It's a 4-letter word, space M, space T. Theo, do you want to do the Hans on this one?
Well, I'd love to, but I'm struggling to find it, so you might have to, Rob.
Well, for sleaze, in the way that the British, I love that the way British will use the word sleaze. Although, yeah,
it's smut, yeah.
Yes.
But yeah,
but I like that use of sleaze as well in England for like any kind of. How is it used? It's used for sort of back dealing or sort of.
I would say it's mainly used for sort of anything that's a bit grotty.
Yeah, but in a political sense, like sleaze, isn't it like accepting bribes and things like that? Like, don't they use sleaze in that context?
Yes, sleaze would be generally used in a political context, but particularly the sort of like the major government of the 90s, or the Johnson government was pretty chock full of it as well. But yeah, sleaze. But I'd say that's slightly different to Smut. I think
it's completely different. It's a totally different usage, but it's only in Great Britain that I've heard of sleaze used that way. Whereas in North America, a sleaze is like just sort of a sketchy dude who's a bit of a, might hide in bushes and, do sleazy things.
Yeah, like a sleaze bag.
A sleaze bag. That's a good word.
It is a good word. And it's,
almost on par with douchebag.
Yes.
So last night, I'm going to give a little douchebag moment. We should have a douchebag jingle too. Douchebag moment of the day.
Just to think what that would be.
So we were watching the Toronto Maple Leafs go down to another Game 7 defeat. Toronto has lost 9 consecutive Game 7s in the playoffs in the last 10 years. Oh, it's terrible. They lost 6-1. It was embarrassing. But anyway, at some point in the middle of the game, I was watching with my kids, and there was some guy wearing a weird suit and what looked like a Russian fur hat behind the Leafs bench with this sort of his girlfriend who looked pretty, a lot of work had been done, let's put it that way, on her lips and so forth. And she was looking sort of pouting beside him with, things on display. And he was sort of dancing in this weird way in his suit in the commercial break. Like, it made no sense. I'm like, they looked like caricatures, like some comedy sketch show had sent these people. It turned out it was Justin Bieber.
Oh my word. There you go.
This morning, yeah. But he looked like he'd had his fair share of lines of coke before before sitting down in his seat to take in the game.
Well, this clip has gone viral of him singing one of his songs whilst under the influence of, it's claimed alcohol, but could well be something stronger. So I wonder if he's just on a massive bender in Montreal.
I feel so. Toronto actually, but he's in the coke bender.
Toronto, sorry. Yes. Tirana. Yeah, 10 across. I've been sort of surreptitiously carrying on looking at clues while you've been
pontificating on Justin Bieber.
And I think 10 across, which is not exactly tactful, 10 letters, second letter N. Could that be indelicate?
Oh, so good, Theo.
And fourth letter E. Yeah,
that was perfectly delicate, delicately handled. You took me off my Justin Bieber rant with kid gloves and brought us back to the crossword very delicately.
And I can't get any of the downs off that right now, but I can get another double worder.
Ooh, hit it.
Which is 9 across, an ecological fishing item. 3.
Yep.
Could that be a... Oh no, I was going to say a trawler net, but...
It could just be a trawl net.
A trawl net, so no, just a trawl net.
Yeah, I think that works because if we look at 4 down, currently holding office is a 7-letter word starting in S, 3rd letter T from trawler, or trawl net, sorry, and then 5th letter I.
So that's sitting.
Correct.
And then 5 down. Sorry, go on.
Is it true that the formerly sitting president of the U.S. has been diagnosed with cancer? Did I read that properly?
This is very true, with aggressive prostate cancer, I believe, which is I think probably. I mean, I haven't read that much about it, so I'm not sure what the longer term outlook is. But
sad news.
Yeah, sad news. And I keep thinking about the sort of counterfactual thing of what if he somehow ended up being elected again, and that had happened, a few months into his presidency. I mean, that would have created quite the
stir
constitutional situation.
It would have.
Anyway, let's go 5 down. Cud chewer and wool provider. 5
We've had
letters.
This before.
L blank A blank A.
Mm-hmm.
And it is our old friend of the show, the llama.
We do love a llama here on Two Across.
We do, and they certainly love a llama on Guardian Towers because they're always shoving them into the crossword. I suppose it's quite a useful word, isn't it, for crosswords?
Yeah, double L
and the double and the 2 handily placed vowels as well. Do you know this one, Rob? 7 down, particular, 4 letters, I blank E blank.
I don't. I looked at it and that kind of threw me for a loop, which makes me wonder whether net is right, but I just can't think that it wouldn't be right. So I think we just have to think of particular I space E space. Well, let's let it percolate. We'll come back to it.
Let's let it percolate. It could be something Latin, dare I suggest it.
It could. Oh yeah, like idem.
Yeah.
IDEM. Yeah.
That's a good shout.
Okay. Well, we could pencil that in, but I just don't want to forget about it. Let's just remember to circle back to that. Oh, it could be item? Well, I don't know. Like a particular
It could
item.
just be item, couldn't it?
Yeah, like the particulars.
Probably more likely. Yes, a particular item.
Or, the particulars in a contract.
Don't ever think it's item.
Okay, good.
Let's move on.
We should probably get moving. Creditworthy example, methanol. And I don't know what e.g. methanol means, but creditworthy makes sense, which is 7 letters long, first letter S, third letter L, fifth letter E. And we've had this before as well.
Oh, no. It's something... it's Sal... Is it Sal something?
It's Sol something, yeah.
Oh, solvent. Yeah.
You got it.
Because methanol is a solvent, isn't it? So...
Yeah.
Yeah, that works.
Yep.
12 across, virgin anagram. So an anagram of virgin. And it's John, author of The Cider House Rules.
You ever read anything by him?
Do you know what? I don't think I have, to my shame.
I don't think I have either. I've not read The Cider House Rules. It feels like one should. Irish?
I can tell you his name.
Yeah, go for it.
Which is Irving, John Irving.
Yeah. But
I know. Maybe this is our prompt this week to go and read something by John Irving.
There you go.
It's a good author. It's a good, strong author name, isn't it? John Irving.
Reader, what's your favorite John Irving novel? Write us at twoacrosspod.
That's not The Cider House Rules. That's cheating.
Yeah, can't do that. That's now out of...
verboten.
Yeah, verboten. Got back again. 14 across, 6 letters long, third letter T.
This is reminding me of the Paul McCartney Got Back tour, which ended last year in London, and I bitterly regret not going to, seeing as it, I don't know, hopefully won't be, but could have been one of the last chances to see him. Yeah. And then reminded me that I never reported back on the Neil Young situation in the summer. And what happened was, Rob, I did the typical thing of basically procrastinating over whether I was going to go or not, and then finally decided, do you know what, I am going to go, because it's probably, probably the last time that I'm going to get to see him in concert. And so then I went to book tickets, and of course the more affordable, well, I say more affordable, I mean they were still 120 quid, but the lower tier price tickets had all sold out. So decision was made for me.
So you could have paid for the £400 tickets that came with a novelty beach ball and access to a cordoned off area 400 feet from the stage.
Yes, where you can sort of, briefly breathe the same air as Neil Young as he walks past you off the stage. And, and a free warm glass of Prosecco. But no. Yes, I took the decision that I probably didn't want to see Neil Young that much to merit.
So when I'm famous and 80 and on, just sort of touring at the end to sort of fill the coffers for whatever reason, or the coffers of self-adulation, I think I would call it the Death Watch Tour. It's just like, and just keep doing them until you croak. It's like Death Watch Tour for I'm still
call
here.
Call it what it is. Yeah. I mean, that's, those farewell tours, just the Death Watch. Yeah, I like that. Could be any moment tour.
Could be any moment. Yeah, guys, it could happen on stage. You could be there. You could be there for the moment I just grip my chest and collapse with the mic in my hand, Wouldn't that be special?
The chest clutch tour 2025.
You could be the person taking a selfie with me in the background clutching my chest, Like you never know.
Your warm Prosecco in hand.
Yeah, exactly.
And that package costs approximately £2,500.
Yeah, but it's worth every penny.
Service fees.
Yeah.
We are exactly halfway through, by the way.
Okay, let's do it.
So we should probably focus a bit on the crossword in hand.
Yeah, it might die on us while we're giggling our way to the end of it. Oh, here's a good one. This is a long one, which will help to bust some things open. It is a plant often bought in December, 10 letters long, and we have none of them. But I think I might have an idea of what this is, although I never remember how the heck to spell it.
So it's not, is it mistletoe?
Well, yeah, but you don't usually buy it as a plant. You buy it as a sprig. Whereas this, I think you buy whole hog as a plant, often at your local supermarket, often sort of wrapped in a garish red plastic sort of thing around the base of it. And it is also garishly red in its leaves.
Yes, I know exactly what it is. And what the hell is it called? Mm-hmm. We get one every year. and I can't.
Yeah.
And I just,
Well, of course
I
you do.
just- I've
It
got
wouldn't be
completely
Christmas
blank.
without one of these. Without one of these and some panettone that someone left
I get
at
one
your
every
house.
year, and every year it dies almost exactly 2 or 3 days after Christmas. Like it knows that it served its purpose.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, tell me, Rob, what is it called?
But you know what? Now I'm starting to wonder if it's right because I'm looking at 17 down. Well, I was thinking of a poinsettia. Or
Oh God, poinsettia, of course.
But
Poinsettia, yeah.
I'm concerned about. Oh, maybe no. Okay, that works because I was thinking flower too red for plat, which I imagine would be Sylvie plat.
So poinsettia is Ponsett.
No, it's Poinse. Poinsettia with 2 T's IA.
I mean, that is a yes, that sounds right. I never pronounce it correct. I always say poinsettia or
Yeah,
poinsettia or something.
I don't think anyone says
those.
poinsettia. I think it's just we say a poinsettia. So
Okay.
I don't know how people.
Anyway,
say
let's go with poinsettia and let's test
Okay.
it with 13 down, which is loggerheads, 7 letters,
Yeah.
I blank P, and then 4 blanks.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
yeah, got it. So that's impasse, yeah.
Yeah. It took me a second there, but yeah, impasse works.
Okay,
works
good.
well.
So I think we can safely say it is poinsettia.
Yes.
And then 16 down, less friendly, 5, beginning with I.
less friendly.
Less friendly. If you're being, it's in something, isn't it?
Yes, probably. Well, I think we can get a letter if we look at 19 across, which is firearm forger. Do people forge firearms anymore? This feels like it should be 2 words, but I guess it's 1. I don't know.
Is it gunsmith?
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Okay, that's good.
So then we'd have I space for our less friendly.
I space I.
So it could be I space I ER, but then what letter would go as the second one?
I think I was thinking of irate, and it can't be that.
Yeah. But it's less friendly, which usually is ER.
Icier?
Icier. Nice. That's it.
Okay.
You got it.
Oh, here's a long one. 21 across. Communication caber. 9 4. I think I've got it.
What? Oh yes. Okay. I was thinking. Yeah. Okay.
You've got it
for
too. I know.
Well,
you have.
I had it and then I didn't, and I think I might have an idea, but I think you
So
had
I
the idea.
believe.
So yes.
Thinking caber as in a long stick of wood.
Mm-hmm.
Could that be telegraph pole?
Yeah, I was thinking telephone pole, and then that didn't play well with Icier, but telegraph pole does. So excellent. Well done, Theo. Solstice month coming up, 4 letters, space U, space E.
June.
June, the month of June. Yeah.
Always happens sooner than I'm expecting. The solstice, the summer solstice. And
I know.
Just when you feel you've come sort of blinking out of the winter, suddenly it's the longest day of the year and you're kind of careering back towards the shortest one again.
No.
Maybe that's just me. I don't know.
Let us not think of this yet.
Let us not bespoil our spring mood with talk of solstices. Flowers, fruit. This is 14 down. It's 7 letters, 2 blanks, and then an S, blank H, blank P. Flowers, fruit.
Yes.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, what is it?
Only because we have quite a few of these in our garden, because I'm quite fond of a rose bush, and it's a rose hip.
Oh, yes, a rose hip. Very nice.
In fact, one of those rose bushes was a gift from Roz, one of our regular listeners and mum of Martin. And she gave us a rose for our wedding called an Anik rose, which has just started blooming again this week, and it is a stunner. It's a pink rose.
Oh, and would this relate to Anik that is spelled Alnwick, that is near your ancestral Demesne?
Hometown. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And no, it's a real cracker. So thanks for that, Roz. We're gonna mention Roz again at the end of the show because she was one of said correspondents. So right, 14 across. Got back again. Have you got any guesses for this one? R blank T blank blank blank.
I have. I think it's retook. as for instance, a piece of land or a castle.
Very good, because I was thinking like return, obviously, but that doesn't quite fit with the clue.
Yeah.
So yeah, whereas retook, that's lovely crosswording, Rob.
Thank you.
11 down. Only in your mind. 8 letters. Blank O, blank I, 3 blanks and an L.
This is our last one. Theo, time check on this?
We've still got 20 across as well. And we've got 8 minutes. So actually, we've sped through these, Rob.
Oh, shoot. Right. 20 across. I didn't see that one.
Oh, and 17 down.
Oh, shoot. Yes, you're right.
Okay.
Sorry. I'd actually penned in 17 down earlier because it was the flower 2 red for Platt, Sylvie Platt. T, starting in T, ending in P, 5 letters long. Flower 2 red.
Tulip?
I think so, yeah. Tulip. Which gives our 20 across a tufty-eared predator starting in L. Now, if it's the one I think, I believe its paws are sort of tufted as well.
Ooh.
Yes.
So, a lemur?
Nope. Too long. And not a predator.
And not a predator, famously.
Yeah. So I don't know.
No, go on. Just say.
I think there are these. The Eurasian one of these, I think, is a thing. I think that you often find them in mountains. They are of the cat family.
Oh.
4 letters starting in L.
Oh no. Lemur?
No.
Did I just say lemur?
You did.
Okay, good. Well done, Theo.
If you say it enough, it'll be true. It's the sort of kids theory.
Okay, don't tell me. I'm going to come back to it.
I shan't. So we could go with, how much time do we have left, Theo?
We've got quite a bit of time. We've got nearly 7 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
To get 2 clues.
Okay, so this is either going to be really aggravatingly annoying listening, or we're just going to bash this out and move on to the part people really want to hear, which is the part that we waffle on random topics until we get out of breath. But let us forestall that by going through these clues.
You are the master of filler, Rob.
I would like that. I'd like that on my tombstone. Yeah, I think we had some other things on the epitaph. We should actually keep notes on this.
We should have a rolling update of epitaphs.
Of the epitaph.
It'd take a lot to beat the Spike Milligan one, but...
what was that? What?
That's I told you I was ill. I mean...
That's great.
You're not going to beat that. But... No. There's... the master of filler. I'm not sure. He now fills the soil where once he filled
exactly.
the airwaves.
Yes, with pablum.
Useless information.
Where once he didst prattle on.
He did, and we are prattling on. We're in danger of prattling ourselves out of contention, so we must keep focused. So 11 down is only in your mind. 8 letters, blank O, blank I, 3 blanks, and L. And I'm not seeing this. I have a feeling you are, though.
Well, not necessarily, but it's hard not to prattle on because this is actually a holiday for me, Theo. This is like your late May bank holiday. This is the rest of Canada calls today Victoria Day, which, as we remember, our love of Queen Victoria. But in Quebec, where I'm from, where all things English are verboten, as you said earlier.
Of course, yeah.
This is the Fête des Patriotes, where we remember the few individuals who took muskets up in the early 19th century and rebelled against the British for about 4 days and then were roundly quashed by the Redcoats and nothing was heard of them again. Sure. Probably because they were all either dead or in the stock.
But they had a go.
They had a go. And Les Patriotes are beloved in this province. We even have like an Autoroute des Patriotes, like the highway of the Patriots, which is believed that they drove their SUVs down that highway when they were carrying their muskets on their way to smash the British.
Yes.
So yes, today is just a day for waffling. And waffle we shall.
But let us waffle. Lovely.
National Day of Waffle.
That should be a day.
That's somewhere. I mean, maybe not national, but I bet you there is. Let's pin that, the International Waffle Day. I bet you there's one.
Although, is it waffle conversations or is it edible waffles? I mean, that could get confusing. You know?
It's true.
Or is it both? Do you make a waffle and then waffle on over the waffle? I mean, that sounds like a kind of...
It's a good point.
Could be a thing. It's basically what Christmas is, isn't it?
It's true. It's true.
Only with turkeys rather than waffles.
Yeah. I mean, is it something about the waffle and it's sort of the amount of air pockets in it that sort of lends itself to bloviating?
Oh, Rob, there's a question for the ages. Talking of waffling, Rob, so we've got 3.5 minutes.
Oh, my God. What are we doing?
You might just have to tell me this bloody animal so that we can actually...
Okay.
I can get a letter. Tufty-eared predator that's in the cat family.
Correct. I'll give you the... Should I give you the... Tell me which letter you want. Second, third, or fourth?
I want the second letter.
It's a Y.
Oh! So, yes, as a child of the 90s, this is more familiar to me as a brand of deodorant.
Indeed. That's true.
It has a very strong effect on the ladies, if advertising was to be believed. It is Lynx.
Yes.
Lynx.
Yes, indeed.
Of course it is. Silly me.
It's amazing how, simply changing your body spray can completely change your fortune with the ladies. But
absolutely. I was always disappointed when I doused myself in Lynx Africa or Voodoo or whatever the other Java, and then immediately headed out onto the nearest streets to be surrounded by a bevy of eager women, and it never happened, Rob. It still isn't happening to this day, sadly. But God knows I'll keep going till it does.
Just at the middle of Brockwell Park, just stand there and wait.
In fact, the irony is that I think actually dousing yourself in any of those fragrances would have quite the opposite effect.
Deleterious effects on your love life.
Indeed. So, right, we've got just under 2 minutes to get only in your mind. Blank O, blank I, blank N, blank L.
Yes.
So I've got a guess for this.
Ooh.
Which feels a little bit, I don't know, a little bit circuitous and not necessarily right for the clue, but my guess is notional.
That's also my guess. So okay. I think two guesses make a right.
Okay.
In this world. No, I think that is. Notional is... Yeah. I mean, I guess only in your mind isn't the best clue of it, but yeah.
Because last week we were hoist on our final petard when we talked ourselves into thinking, or rather I talked you into thinking that the answer was something that didn't really relate or didn't really work with the clue.
It was close, and it was a good one that we had to put in because we just didn't get to the correct one before the timer went off.
It was tactless when the answer was daftness.
Yeah.
Not to rake up old wounds, but...
So, couple of seconds here before we close this, because I think the timer's about to go off. Is there anything that we feel...
Seconds, yeah.
I mean, poinsettia is obviously a tough one. I think it's right. I mean, it seems to be borne out by all the ones that fit. Haile Selassie, another one, but item, solvent, llama all seem to fit, so it suggests that Haile Selassie is correct.
It is Selassie, not Salassie, isn't it?
It's S-E, definitely. S-E-L-A-S-S-I-E, I think. I mean, that's the tripwire that worries me the most, but given that all of the downs fit off it, well, Theo,
no more time.
No more time.
For such ruminations. We are done.
We are.
Right. Should we get on with it and just check all?
I think listeners would like that.
I think listeners would appreciate anything that just cuts the sheer amount of National Waffle Day waffle.
Yes.
So
maybe we'll find that today is National Waffle Day and it just happened. It's not the Fête des Patriotes. It's National Waffle Day.
Rob and dear listeners, we are correct.
We needed that. I needed that on this 9-degree, vaguely rainy morning. To provide
that
some
feels
encouragement.
good. That was a nice one.
That was a nice one.
Because we got to the halfway point and we hadn't actually at that stage done half of the clues. So I think I sort of, put the foot down thinking, oh, we really need to motor here. Dreading that we were going to come up against a real sticking point. And we didn't. We just sort of sailed on through to the finish line.
Yeah, we tiptoed through the tulips with our trawl net, picking up clues as we went.
We did, like Haile Selassie, returning from an indelicate and smutty encounter. We covered ourselves in links, went to the gunsmith, and overcame the impasse.
And telegraphed it down the telegraph pole that we were meant business.
We did, and then presented a bunch of tulips, which were received icily initially, but then, seeing as it was June,
they were retook.
John Irving
Yes.
decided to dedicate his next novel to us. And I think we've name-checked pretty much everything.
Yeah, and to listeners, that's entirely notional inside of Theo's own mind.
Yes. And to mark the occasion, I'm going to order a single item that is a solvent. In fact, it's a latte.
Oh, well done.
So
well, look, I'm going to take us through this impasse and suggest that we move on to other pastures, because we have a sitting shih-tzu at your feet that is waiting for us to get to the business of our email.
Crosswords done, that was fun. Now let's have a chat.
So we got 2 pieces of email this week, Theo. So I would suggest that I could take one and you could take one.
Good plan.
We'll top line them. So just as listeners may remember, in the last episode, we requested a bit of feedback as we sort of consider, we're getting to the end of season 2. We'll probably have about 5 episodes left before we get on to season 3, or take our estival break before we do so. And we asked for a bit of input. We're sort of 2 years in, just about, into this thing, and we're wondering from listeners what you like about it, what we could tweak with the format. How you found us is always useful for us to understand how people are finding the podcast and ways that we can further get the word out. And of course, as we always say in our appeal at the end, if you do like what you're listening to, we definitely welcome any sharing of it with friends and family and other people, just to get the word out about it, and other people who might enjoy our waffling. So we did get a lovely email from Kent Park Street, who gave us a little bit of advice. And he says, and I won't read the whole thing out because I think a lot of it is sort of things that we have to ruminate on. But he said, "Gentlemen, well, you did ask for opinions, and here are mine. A little less modesty." So I didn't think we were modest, certainly not today, but that's well noted. Travel and theater are interesting topics. So that's me and Theo, respectively. I'm sure you can share some of the fun bits of your lives without sounding like you're bragging. I reckon the audience would enjoy it. Give us a little glamour. So that's the sort of dangerous peek behind the curtain. You might find that our lives are not particularly glamorous, but I think we could certainly lie.
Don't dispel the magic, Rob. If they want to picture us sitting in a, Trumpian gold-plated jacuzzi as we record these episodes, then let them carry on, I say.
Yes, well, I mean, it's just as well.
That's not glamorous, is it? What are we saying? That's the very definition of sleazy and smutty.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It really is. So he recommends we stick on social media, Theo, possibly Blue Sky. Obviously, that's a new and up-and-coming platform that sort of frames itself as the antidote to the swamp that X has become. And it's okay to ask people to share the show, which I think we just did. They just don't think of it unless you suggest it. So we're back to less modesty. So thank you very much, Kent, for a number of constructive pieces of input, which are going to go onto the whiteboard of Two Across for season 3. So thank you very much for the input. Kent Park Street, friend of the show. We've had quite a nice correspondence. And Kent is one of those fellows who discovered us very much on their own. Sort of the algorithm spat out Two Across when he was looking for something. So thanks, Kent. And dare I say, thanks, algorithm. So, Theo, would you like to get on to the next piece of mail, which actually doesn't relate to our appeal for input, but it does relate to our appeal for input 2 episodes ago on whether animals, like humans, will sort of self-dampen, as it were, and crawl off to the corner when they feel they've been ostracized by their fellow people. So, yeah, a good piece of input from Roz.
It was prompted by my visit to the Farne Islands in Northumberland, where I observed seabirds, including guillemots and puffins, who basically spend their winters out at sea and then return to these islands every spring to breed and mate and pair up. And we started sort of wondering about those that don't pair up and what becomes of them, and the line between, as Rob said, sort of community and solitude. And Roz, the aforementioned mum of Martin from the Aveling clan, who are my go-to oracles on all things nature, has kindly emailed to sort of point out a few things on this topic. So she says, of course I have to respond to your musings about reclusiveness in humans and other animals with some thoughts. Need first to consider species strategies. Are they essentially social or solitary? Solitary creatures that only meet to mate could not be called reclusive, although they lead solitary lives. Interesting. Then consider how social species organise their societies. Often these are quite hierarchical and leave individuals at the margins, which is not ideal for them to thrive. If you watch these individuals, they might seem reclusive, as they could be avoiding negative social contact. Finally, there's an overlay of individual response, whatever the species. Taking your lonely cliff-nesting seabird example, the Theo seabird, who was tempted to fly off across the great blue and literally drown his sorrows, is countered by the Rob seabird, who realises if he stays put on the cliff and in touch with society, another mate will come along when its mate disappears in the talons of a raptor. Warmly, Roz. So there you go.
I take the lesson learned on that is that if you are feeling in any way lonely, just wait for the ideal friend to pop up when some of their friends or their mate are taken off by a large predatory bird.
Absolutely. That's the sort of yin and yang of the human condition, isn't it? You know?
It is.
For every raptor that takes one of us away, there is another mate to be found for the remaining solitary
a new
seabirds.
Friendship or courtship blooms.
That's quite a positive thought, I think, to end on, or possibly not end on, because we did have another pin which we mentioned at the top, or rather after we started the crossword, which is our old friend Haile Selassie. So
yes,
shall we just do a quick sort of summary of him?
You got anything for us, Theo? Have you done a bit of research?
Sure. What I've got is so I found this little known website called Wikipedia, which appears to have some information.
Is that just available in the UK, or can international listeners access that?
I believe it's internationally available, and I'm surprised it's not better known, because
it must have sprung up overnight.
Something I rely on very heavily in my work. No, I shouldn't say that. Of course I don't. I rely strictly on my own research.
And ChatGPT.
Yes. Right. Haile Selassie the First, who lived from 1892 to 1975, was Emperor of Ethiopia from 1930 to 1974. He rose to power as the regent plenipotentiary, I think, of Ethiopia under Empress yada 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 yada. And let's get to the bit where he started a cult.
I don't think he did it himself. I think people just did it on his back.
So after popular uprisings, Selassie was overthrown in 1974 with support from the Soviet Union. The Derg, who overthrew him, began governing Ethiopia as a Marxist-Leninist state. In 1994, 3 years after the fall, it was revealed to the public that the Derg had assassinated Selassie at the Jubilee Palace. So I've rather cut forward a bit there. I've missed out the bit where he came to the UK.
Somewhere where he came to the UK. And then in the beginning it does say, and I don't provide a lot of, I have to say this is a rather academic article. I want it to be a bit more clickbaity. But he is accorded divine importance in Rastafari, an Abrahamic religion that emerged in the 30s. So there you go. And if you click on that, it is an Abrahamic religion that developed in Jamaica during the 30s. It's classified both as a new religious and a social movement. There's no central authority, and I'm just going to see if there you go. Rastas accord key importance to Haile Selassie, Emperor of Ethiopia between 1930 and 1974, who is regarded variously as the second coming of Jesus, Jah incarnate, or a human prophet. So there you go.
There you go. I knew about Haile Selassie and his Rastafari connections. I don't think I realised Rastafarianism kind of began with him.
Seemingly.
And is therefore obviously less than a century old. So very new. I often think about the foundation of religions and how, today we sort of write off Scientology as being complete nonsense. Well, not everybody does, obviously. No offense to our
You're going to get sued
listeners.
for saying that, by the way.
You're right. I'm going to get massively cancelled by that.
I have no problem with Scientology, just so you say I do not endorse any beliefs of Theo in this regard.
I think what I'm saying is that there's almost a kind of anti-recency bias when it comes to religions, as in anything relatively new is dismissed as completely wonkish, whereas anything centuries old has obviously some weight and prominence. And it's just quite an interesting thought that every religion must start at a certain point and go through a phase where it's sort of, dismissed as complete wonkery, and then becomes adopted by the mainstream. So who knows, in hundreds of years' time, Scientology will be the dominant religion. Maybe Rastafarianism will be the dominant religion.
Maybe that will be the great conflict, the great religious conflict in the world. Won't be, Catholics against Protestants or Islam against Christianity. It'll be Rastafarians against Scientologists in like 300 years. There's some sci-fi there, Theo.
There's an island called Vanuatu that I know believed, or certain inhabitants of this island believed that Prince, what was he called? The Duke of Edinburgh, the late Duke of Edinburgh,
yes.
Was
Prince,
yeah. What was he called?
Albert? No, that wasn't Albert. That was Victoria's.
Oh my God. What was he called? How have we forgotten this?
It's in the past.
It's in the past. Put you behind in the past, as the warthog says in The Lion King, which we've been watching a lot recently in our house.
Timon and Pumbaa.
Timon and Pumbaa. I'm sorry, but we have to remember this. I can't believe what is happening to my brain. The Duke of Edinburgh, who was Charles's dad.
Yeah.
Philip.
Granddaddy to William. Philip.
Prince
there you go.
Philip, obviously.
Yes. Obviously.
So anyway, some occupants of the island of Vanuatu worship Prince Philip. I can't remember what my point was.
Wow.
But anyway, shout out to them if you're listening.
Any random monarch can get followers in some far-flung island if they try hard enough and believe in themselves. And so I think that's actually a moment, Theo, if you will, where we could leave off with our listeners who themselves may be thinking of having an island of devoted worshippers one day. Believe in yourself. Try and find somewhere where you can become a monarch and get a bit of stature and just see what happens.
Absolutely. Amen to that. Good luck with those endeavors, dear listeners, and thank you for joining us.
We'll send you off with that, and probably send off all of our listeners from both Jamaica and Vanuatu to never, ever listening to us again, and the lawyers from the Scientologists to filing multiple lawsuits against Theo, but not me, because I love Scientology. You have been listening to Two Across. We thank you very much for being with us every week for this podcast. It is much appreciated. You are the reason that we do this. This is where we cue, "You are so beautiful." But I'm not going to do that. We're just going to listen to our normal theme music. So if you do want to get in touch with us, twoacrosspod@gmail.com is the place to do it. Constructive suggestions on the pod. Any feedback, as always, if you'd like to share this with a friend, give us a like, subscribe. All of those things help to propel us to having our own island of worshipers, which we deeply long for. In the meantime, enjoy your week, and we will see you here next week. Goodbye.